is the Gauteng Education spokesperson, Steve Mabona, who joins us on the line now. Mr. Mabona, good evening to you, and thank you very much for your time. Let's pick up on the Daveyton Skills Schools. So, the disciplinary hearing against the principal, when does that start, and what is the justification for taking her on a disciplinary?
Good evening, Chloe, and to all our viewers. The recommendations are quite clear on what the department needs to do when coming to the discipline or consequence management, rather, which need to be implemented against the principal. The decision to take children to that camp was not approved by the department. So that's the first point. There was no educator that was invited to be part of the tour, which, according to our tour regulations, there must be one teacher per 20 learners if you go on an excursion. So that did not happen. The SGB was not involved. The school management team was not involved. So the principal made those arrangements allegedly, by herself, and only instructed the social worker to accompany the children to the camp. So we feel that there's enough evidence, basing ourselves on the report that is on our table on how we're going to be continuing with the consequence management. That's why we have precautionarily transferred the principal to report at the district level until finalization of this process.
Yeah. All right. So two things stand out here, Mr. Mabona. The trip was unsanctioned. Add to that, there are now fatalities, 2 fatalities of learners. Does the department intend laying a criminal charge against this principal, or are you leaving that for law enforcement?
The police are investigating the circumstances surrounding this incident. You will know that they will decide on what are they investigating. There's an IO that is responsible for the case. Probably they will, do an inquest, but it's for them to decide. They will speak for themselves. But we are aware that there's a case that is being investigated. That's why we could not even get the post-mortem report, as it were, because they said the family need to, request, or both families need to request those post-mortem reports. So that process will be led by the police, and the families as well. They have an opportunity to request the post-mortem report. So criminally, the police are investigating. It's the space that we would not want to enter because it's not in our purview. But for us was to, get this report, which will then guide us on what is it that we need to do, looking at the role that was played by our employee. And for future purposes, on what is it that we need to emphasize on. Like, for instance, the SGP, where it was new, they just listened to what the principal was saying. They need to be enhanced, make sure that they understand the policies that they need to govern, because SGP, it's governance. They need to govern. This is their children. They cannot listen to a principal who's an employee of the department to tell them that I'm taking your children, but don't know where you're taking your children, what are the activities that they will be undertaking there, how will they be helpful to their children, and who's going, who's not going. All those, we need to make sure that the SGP is enhanced and they know what is it that they need to do, as governance.
All right. So for the department, ultimately, though, the buck stops with the principal, and that's why you are instituting a disciplinary action. There is one critical question, though, Mr. Mabona, relating to this very case. In the pictures right now that we are running, it's actually, I think it is actually the school at which this incident occurred. Talk to us about who within the department is responsible for contracting or either striking a relationship between schools and the different camps that children would go to as chosen by the schools. Are there people that are directly responsible for ensuring that schools work with certain camps? I hope that question is understood.
Yes. If an approval was sought and we were requested to take children there, there was no way that you will take children at that camp. I visited the camp, personally, saw those makeshift dams, which they are exposed and they are not even covered. I mean, anyone can access them. You will not take children there. It was not going to pass the test if you were to go through the checklist that you would have put, when you seek approval for you to go on a tour. So that's why in January we issued a memo to all the schools, reminding them on what is it that they need to do in terms of seeking approval. And they were actually reminded again with a correspondence which was sent to all the schools, including this school, did receive that information. So that's why the law firm said it's quite concerning that the principal will say, I did not know the regulations. Meanwhile, correspondences were sent to all the schools, including her school. So those are the things that we really need to look at. But yes, indeed, the recommendations are saying, again, we need to make sure that all the camps or all the excursions venues that we want to take our children, they must be approved. We must know who's operating there. Are they qualified to do what they're doing? Do we have, documentation that proves that, yes, they're qualified to do what they are doing?
Yeah.
And those, service providers need to be known by the department. Then we can share with the schools to say, these ones, we are quite happy with them. We have satisfied ourselves. You can then probably engage them. So that's the recommendation that MEC has agreed that we need to consider and make sure that is successful.
All right. Finally, on the Daveyton Skills School, these children, Mr. Mabona, the deceased children, were in the care of a school that belongs to the Department of Education. Is the department aware of any indications, at least at this stage, of parents of these children taking the department legally now to try and sue for what has happened?
Look, as a department, will always listen to the families and what they want or what they will seek from the department. That's why each and every time we present a report, we'll then give them contacts of our legal services director or chief director who will be always accompanying us to say, assist the families, guide them on what is it that they can do for them to pursue any claim that they want to put on the table. I mean, like, for instance, this school have insurance. So the family need to be guided on how to access that, because among others, a death of a child in the custody of the school or, under the custodianship of the school is covered by the insurance that they have.
All right.
Then you need to assist them with that process. But if they decide to then probably sue the department because they introduced the lawyers that they have there, then we will also then have to represent ourselves in as a department, because that process will then go to court.
Yeah.
And we'll put our case on the table to say, this is what we are saying as the department and we are willing to do. So those will then be left to the court processes. But in terms of insurance, they need just to be guided on how to access that claim.
Let's quickly move on then to the Pretoria Girls High. You've suspended the principal there for 3 months. Let's understand the basis or the rationale for that. Is this got to do with the principal, again, being the ultimate authority at the school? And just for the record, how long has this principal been at the helm of Pretoria Girls High?
The principal has been there since 2018. You will understand that in 2016 we had an issue there, and the then principal had to leave the system, and some of the educators that were implicated in the 2016 debacle. So the suspension is it's not what we're saying to say, one is guilty or we are chastising the principal. We are not. We are precautionary saying, let's remove her from the school for that 90 days, while we'll then be continuing with the investigation, because it involves a lot of work that we must do at the school. So the labor practitioners, they felt that we can't have this investigation while she's present at the school. So they've decided on the decision that they have already pronounced on.
Yeah.
So we'll continue with that investigation, and there are other, officials that are identified at the school that also need to be answerable to some of the allegations that are put on the table by learners. We will also pursue those. So that's what we're doing, as the department, as it were.
All right. And very briefly, therefore, your preliminary investigations at this stage, what are they telling you about the principal having been aware or not of the so-called racist WhatsApp group? And add to that the fate of the learners that have since been suspended. For how long are they going to be on suspension?
The allegations that we have is that, yes, the principal might have been aware of the allegations and the establishment of that group, but nothing was done. And complaints were put on the table and nothing was done. So we were moving on that premise. But as far as the learners, they've been suspended by SGB. SGB is parents. It's an extension of parents. So would have signed a code of conduct that they've crafted themselves to say, if you transgress this, we'll take you for discipline. So the process, started today. It's an evening process because, parents have other commitments during the day. So it will continue, and tomorrow again they will sit. And after 3 days or so, they will probably then provide us with an outcome of their disciplinary process. So we'll hear from them. But there's an undertaking that all learners that are affected, they will be supported, as it were. They will be supported by the department. We know that it's examination period now. That's why we've called upon all the activists that were there at the school to say, we have seen you, but we've started this process on the 19th already after learning about it. We have taken action, so we don't need any activism outside the school tomorrow, because learners need to be in the classroom. Curriculum delivery must continue. They need to prepare for the examination that is going to be undertaken. More so the grade 12s. They will be starting soon with their prelims. So we need that space. We need to operate. So, but then parallel to that, we'll continue with our processes.
All right. Steve Mabona, thank you very much for your time.